Church is in session. I'm going to be preaching the Holy Gospel of Satoshi for the next couple of hours. In today's show, we'll be discussing the latest Bitcoin technical analysis as analysts warn of 95,000 bear trap despite the recent record, 102,000 monthly close. Also quoting the high priest of Bitcoin, Max Kaiser, El Salvador today is like buying Bitcoin for $1 in 2011. You get El Salvador at the price you deserve. We'll also be discussing the appetite for the spot Bitcoin ETF return with 318 million of net inflows. We'll also be discussing, will Trump pardon Sam Bankman-Fried? Well, their parents just made a direct appeal. We'll also be discussing El Salvador purchases 2 additional Bitcoin in a single day, continuing their stash and accumulating the sats. We'll also be discussing the 15 U.S. states initiating the Bitcoin strategic reserve plans, as well as Microstrategy announces a 563 million stock offering. Says part of the proceeds will be used to acquire more BTC as Michael Saylor continues accumulating. We'll also be discussing his $13 million base case for the King crypto. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this plus so much more in today's show. If you're new to the channel, very important to smash the likes and go ahead, subscribe, then ring that bell. Turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, just like this. And today is spot episode number 1894. Can you believe that? We're almost at episode 1900, just 6 more episodes away. Time sure does fly. Today is February 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, JV. Bitcoin, sharp correction. Obviously, as you can see on your screen, the Bitty price is currently hovering around 98,500 at the time of the live stream. A great BTFD opportunity. And let's kick it off with our market watch as we do each and every day, 7 days a week. Entire market in the red. Oh, wow. We haven't seen ETH under 3,000 in a while. Well, today is your lucky day. Under 3 Gs. Bitcoin down almost 3% on the day. Trading just shy of 98.7 according to Coin360. But all the major alts correct in Rec City and in the red. They say it's because of the tariffs of the Trumpster. We'll get into all that. Also be pulling up some of the live charts here shortly. Stick around. Checking out CoinMarketCap.com. The current crypto market cap just shy of 3.3 trillion. Bitcoin market cap was above 2 trillion yesterday. Now today back down to 1.95 trillion dollars. We have 166 billion of volume for the past 24 hours with the Bitcoin dominance on the climb, baby. 59.4%. We're almost back at 60% as the Ether dominance has been on the decline for a very long time. And checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours. Ironic, Trump coin is up 8%, but still trading at only $20. I think the all-time high was around $75. Most of the people bought the top probably between $50 to $75. So a lot of investors, pretty wrecked there, but it still has a $4.1 billion market cap. And then we have stable coins because virtually everything is in the red today. The only thing in the green is the shitcoin, official Trump coin. Go figure. But let me know which alts, if any, are bullish on for the bull. Holla at your boy. And checking out the crypto bubbles. We get a visual perspective on the daily, and safe to say virtually everything Rec City. Zooming out on the monthly, does it look any prettier? Barely. Maybe 10 of the top 100 coins actually even in the green. And checking out the crypto greed and fear index. Today we're 60. Yesterday 68. Last week is 73. And last month is 74 in greed. And checking out the time chain calendar. 167,989 blocks to the halving in 2028. Currently on block number 882,011. My favorite number. And you currently exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for over 1,000 sats today. Take advantage of it. 1,016 sats per dollar. That's a blackjack, baby. So pick up the sats, put down the gats, and pick up some Bitcoin caps from my boy Sergio over at bitcoincaps.net. Get yourself a custom El Salvador cap, just like this. So yeah, headline here reads, Bitcoin analysts warn of 95,000 bear trap. Let me know if you think we'll hit 95 despite the record 102 monthly close. That's right. Bitcoin may be headed to the bear trap below 95 despite staging the first monthly close above 100. If you missed the memo, 2 days ago, practically a day ago, we had the biggest or highest monthly close in the history of Bitcoin at 102.3, like 102 and some change. Bitcoin fell below 100,000 today for the first time since Jan 27th. Oh no, end of the world. Sell your Bitcoin, gentlemen. Joking. The decline comes amid inflation concerns after Trump imposed import tariffs on goods from China, Canada, and Mexico. However, the dip could be the start of a wider correction, potentially taking the biddy to 95, according to Ryan Lee. On the downside, the 95,000 range remains a critical support area. The interplay between the labor market trends, Fed policy expectations, and the market sentiment would be the main catalyst monitoring for the coming weeks. However, the biddy could see more upside in February. In fact, I believe we're going to see a massive amount of upside. You remember that 130,000 target on the 4-hour chart? I'll share it to you here shortly. It's in play. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics set to publish its U.S. labor market report February 7th, end of the week. Weakening labor market data may strengthen the case for the rate cut by the Fed, which creates a more supportive environment for the biddy. And however, Bitcoin recorded, as you know, the first strongest monthly close of all time, above 100,000, 102.4 to be more precise, over 6% higher than the previous record monthly close of 96.4, which was registered back in November of last year. So some analysts believe that Bitcoin's current correction may only be a bear trap, including Sensei, who shared the following chart. A bear trap is a form of coordinated, controlled selling that creates a temporary dip in the asset price, typically comprising a significant correction during the long-term uptrend. And despite the potential for the short-term correction, Bitcoin's prospects remain bullish for the rest of the year, especially after the Bitcoin ETFs surpassed the record 125 billion milestone just over a year from they first debuted Jan 11th of last year. And they're going to continue. You know what I mean? Larry Fink, Mr. Lawrence himself, he's just going to continue to stack the biddy. Predictions from the rest of the analysts for this year range from 160,000. Some analysts more advantageous, projecting $1 million per coin. Max Kaiser's calling for 2.2 million. You let me know your thoughts. Speaking of Max, quoting him here, El Salvador today is like buying Bitcoin for $1 in 2011. You get El Salvador at the price you deserve. And here's a throwback from 2 weeks ago when I was in Bitcoin country at the golf course where the Max and Stacy Invitational was being held. And speaking of the Max and Stacy Invitational, I know they just released tickets to another event occurring on May 5th. So I just want to give it a quick shout out. As it says here, Max tweeted this just a few moments ago. He wrote, announcement ticket pre-sale kickoff event meetup for the second annual Max and Stacy Invitational will be May 5th. Let's go. So if you're interested in joining Max and Stacy for the exclusive event, the one I just attended, I strongly encourage you, check it out, cop your ticket or get on the waiting list. I think that's how it works. Typically, as soon as they release tickets, they sell out in like 30, 40 minutes, and you got to get on the waiting list because it's an invitational, just FYI. And if you don't know, now you know, Crypto Broskies. Let's break down the latest with the Bitcoin ETFs. Headline reads, appetite for the spot Bitcoin ETFs will return with 318 million worth of the net inflows. That's right. Even though the US-based ETF started the week on a negative note, they ended its 7-day, 4.7 billion inflow streak. The crypto investment products saw nearly 460 million withdrawn in value just on Monday, however. The Bitcoin ETFs appear to be making a strong comeback, and in the week with hundreds of millions of dollars in fresh capital inflows. The resurgence in institutional demand comes amidst the uncertain market climate, indicating renewed investor confidence in the biddy. The latest market data shows the US-based spot Bitcoin ETF market totaled a net capital inflow of 318 million as of Friday, January 31st. This marked the fourth straight day of the crypto investment products experiencing a net capital inflow after the massive withdrawals of last Monday. BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust, we know as IBIT, witnessed the largest net inflow, attracting a remarkable 363 million just on Friday. After slowing down in the recent weeks, the $1 trillion asset manager's fund seems to be picking up again. ARC 21 shares followed the second place, recording a daily net inflow of 35.5 million on Friday. And VanEck's HODL ETF was the only other fund to post positive inflows, recording 5.7 million for the following week. Bitwise was one of the two exchange ETFs which registered a net withdrawal on Friday of 56 million in capital outflows. This fund has struggled to produce consistent positive performance. I wonder why that is. Posting 7 inflow days in January. Meanwhile, Grayscale also witnessed outflows. I mean, what else is new? Grayscale was once the largest holder of the Bitcoin, and it seems all the Bitcoin they've been mass selling since converting their GBTC to the ETF has all been going right into BlackRock, ironic enough. And BlackRock has now taken their place with now over 500,000 Bitcoin. Nevertheless, the 318 million single-day performance pushed the US-based Bitcoin ETF's weekly record to 556 million. And while the figure pales in comparison to the ETF's performance of the recent weeks, it managed to start another streak in the positive. And when it comes to the Ethereum ETFs, nobody really cares. But there you have it, yo. I think they're going to continue mass volume. And keep in mind what the Bitcoin ETF has achieved. I'm talking about the spot ETFs, which went live for Bitcoin since January 11th of last year. In 1 year, it has achieved more volume than 2 decades of the gold ETF, which has been around for almost 20 years in 1 year. So you already know Bitcoin will eventually flip the gold market cap. And by that time, Bitcoin could be in the multi-millions. I think gold, correct me if I'm wrong, is probably 17 plus trillion market cap. Today, Bitcoin is only a 2 trillion market cap. So pretty little bitty going up. Prepare for it, family. Yeah, this actually, I mean, it almost made me throw up when I even read the headline. But apparently, SBF's parents are trying to pardon their son with Trump. I assumed he was going to get pardoned with Biden, but apparently that didn't happen. And now they want Trump to pardon him. All I know is this: Trump, if you pardon Sam Bankman-Fried, I don't know what else. I don't know what I'll do. I'll leave it at that. Shout out, Paul. Appreciate the sub. Let's just say, Trump, please do not pardon this clown. Please, 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 please. The parents of the disgraced FTX founder, Scam Bankman-Fried, looking at options to attain a pardon for their son from Trump. Stanford Law School professors Joseph Bankman and Barbara Fried reportedly held discussions in recent weeks with attorneys and individuals linked to the Trump circle regarding potential clemency for the 32-year-old son. Now, here's my thinking. He achieved the biggest financial fraud in human history. He was very lucky to only get 25 years. He acted like he wasn't guilty. He pled not guilty. Everyone knows he's guilty. And so he got lucky. He could have got life sentence. I mean, what'd they do to Ross Ulbricht? They gave him 2 fucking life sentences, like plus 40 years. So Scam Bankman-Fried scams the entire crypto industry, tens of billions of dollars, fucks over everybody, and 25 years. And now they want to pardon him. Please, Trump, do not do that. Following the collapse of FTX, a number of its former executives have benefited from sentence reductions in exchange for their cooperation. For instance, Caroline Ellison with the Grippy from Mississippi, who once led Alameda Research, was granted a reduced sentence for cooperating with prosecutors investigating the FTX collapse, sentenced to only 2 years. That's crazy, bro. And beginning her prison term in September of 2023, she secured an early release by 3 months. We also have Ryan Salami, who received a sentence reduction. The former FTX executive, his original 7.5-year term was shortened by a year, which is expected to be released for March 1st of 2031 under the First Step Act, which incentivizes a good behavior. And additionally, FTX technology chief Gary Wang and the former engineer Nishad similarly benefited from the reduced sentences. Excuse me, I was burping. The same cannot be said for Bankman-Fried. He was sentenced to 25 years, but again, considering the type of life sentences they've been giving people who have not did anything remotely close to what Bankman-Fried has done, I'd consider that very fortunate. The latest efforts to secure Bankman-Fried's release follows a trend of seeking clemency for prominent figures behind bars. Notable example, as you know, Ross Ulbricht was freaking pardon, which is a great celebratory victory for the entire Bitcoin community. He's the guy who founded Silk Road, and he got 2 life sentences, and Trump just pardoned him via an executive order January 21st, second day on the job. However, Bankman-Fried may not receive the same level of backing. That's a fact. The only one backing Bankman-Fried I know of is that worm, what's his name, from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Not So Wonderful. Like, you know, I don't know why he's in bed so much with Bankman-Fried, probably because of all the money they gave him as an ambassador to the FTX exchange, but I digress. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Trump will even entertain pardoning this clown? Here's the latest from El Salvador. You know, I was just there in Bitcoin country. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you watched yesterday's episode of the pod. I basically broke down all the El Salvador Bitcoin FUD from the IMF, but they just made another purchase, so they're in the headlines again. El Salvador purchases 2 additional Bitcoin in a single day. That's right. El Salvador purchased 2 additional biddies February 1st. The country typically acquires 1 Bitcoin per day as part of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Initiative, but has been purchasing Bitcoin at an accelerated pace since they took the loan with the IMF. And according to the government's Bitcoin tracker, El Salvador currently has 6,055 BTC, valued at over 612 million, and they have purchased over 50 of the biddy just in the last 30 days. El Salvador for the win. Thy savior, El Salvador. The country recently rescinded its legal tender law requiring businesses to accept Bitcoin as payment to secure the loan from the International Monetary Fund we know as the IMF. That's the IMF FUD. Nothing has changed there. There's a lot of FUD circulating that in return for Bukele taking the, $1.4 billion loan from the IMF, that they were going to wind down Bitcoin adoption. That's not true. They're accelerating the Bitcoin adoption, and the proof of work is in them purchasing more Bitcoin. And I think Bukele's intention is to use that money from the IMF strategically, acquiring more Bitcoin than they would be able to do without the $1.4 billion loan. Also, to make it clear, businesses have always had the option to choose Bitcoin or dollars. US dollars and Bitcoin are both legal currency in El Salvador. And when I was just there with my boots on the ground, I went to different vendors when I was eating and such, and I said, do you accept Bitcoin? Some said yes. Some said no. So as a visitor or as a local, you have the option to choose. You can use your dollars, you can use Bitcoin. Granted, a vendor accepts Bitcoin. So no one has ever been forced, you have to only use Bitcoin. Everyone's always had that choice. So that's where some of the FUD comes in. So news of the deal received mixed reactions from the crypto community. Yeah, of course. And El Salvador continue accumulating more Bitcoin for its national reserve, and that's all that matters. Just pay attention to this. They're stacking sats, and that's the bigger picture. And as part of the $1.4 billion IMF deal, El Salvador had to make Bitcoin payments voluntary. More FUD. It's always been voluntary. You have the option to pay with Bitcoin or US dollars. But one thing I did get from the locals, they're going to be winding down the Shivo wallet because they're not huge fans of it. But there are pros and cons, just like with anything else. One of the pros I learned from my boy JC Reyes, who took me out for pupusas. When you use the Chivo wallet, they eat all the fees. So there's zero Lightning Network fees. So you're incentivized to use the Shivo wallet. However, it's completely optional. You can use any Lightning wallet. You can use Strike. You can use Exodus. I was using Exodus. When I made my transaction and I shared the proof of work on my X feed, I actually used the Exodus wallet to send sats to the vendor, a local Salvadoran who had the pupusa shop, and he was using the Shivo wallet. And I sent it from my Exodus wallet via Lightning, zapping it using the barcode. And again, I got the proof of work to show you this on my wall. And then within a few seconds, bada boom, bada bing, sent. And it was a $10 transaction, and they charged me a 2-cent fee because I was using Exodus, which you still get charged the Lightning fee, which is virtually nothing, 2 cents for a $10 transaction. So it cost me a total of $10.02 to zap sats to a local Shivo wallet. If I would have been using Shivo and sent it to him, it would have been 0 fee, and I could have saved 2 cents, but I can care less about 2 pennies at the end of the day. The country also acquired 11 Bitcoin valued at over 1 million one day after signing that deal with the IMF. And I think that's like, in my opinion, that's like a chess move. It's like, okay, I'll take your money and I'm going to up the ante. We're not buying 1 Bitcoin today. We're buying 11 because 11 is the greatest number to ever exist. Just saying. And in the December 19th post, El Salvador's National Bitcoin Office, Stacey Herbert, said El Salvador may begin accumulating Bitcoin at an accelerated pace. Precisely. So winding down, I think not. Nothing more than FUD. The national office acquired an additional 12 Bitcoin January 19th. Following the purchases, spokespeople from the government shared that the office intends to ramp up the purchases this year. We have achieved not only the greatest rebrand in history, but we are now an actual case study for a winning country strategy. El Salvador's Bitcoin treasury strategy has drawn praise from Bitcoin maxis and attention from crypto firms, including Fidelity. The digital asset firm's January 2025 report entitled 2025 Look Ahead specifically noted El Salvador's Bitcoin treasury strategy as a potential catalyst to broaden the nation-state adoption. Which countries do you think will follow in the footsteps of the philosopher king, Bukele, thy savior, El Salvador? Let me know, fam. We're going to discuss real quick these 15 states trying to adopt Bitcoin at a state level before at a national level. So let's break this one down. Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, anybody? According to O'Daly, Eric Wise, a board member of the publicly traded company Core Scientific, he shared that 15 U.S. states, including Alabama, notice I say it with the country accent, Arizona and Florida, have launched initiatives for Bitcoin strategic reserves. Arizona and Utah have advanced to the stage where approval from the White House and senators currently pending, bringing them close to becoming law. This is a really good tweet. So It says, hopefully you can see on my screen here, or, you know what I mean? The die is cast. Nation states, companies, and individuals are clamoring to acquire Bitcoin. Stack, hodl, prosper, Bitcoin rocket ship to the moon, baby. And let's go through each of these states. Who's going to be the last state to finally adopt Bitcoin? It better not be Puerto Rico, is all I'm saying. It's a territory of the United States, though, just FYI. Obviously, we're not in the mainland, but it is what it is. I digress. Alabama, come on now. We got Arizona already at the House Senate approval, so it looks like they're making strides. We got to get to the finish line. And we also have Utah over at the House Senate approval. Alabama, the bill was just introduced. In Florida, the bill was introduced. In Illinois, not only was it introduced, but it's awaiting committee approval. Kentucky, the bill was introduced. Massachusetts, it's awaiting committee approval. New Hampshire, waiting committee approval. North Dakota, awaiting committee approval. Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, all awaiting committee approval. South Dakota, the bill was just introduced. In Texas, it was introduced, currently awaiting committee approval. Utah, it's all the way awaiting House Senate approval. And then we have Wyoming, which is awaiting the committee approval. It also says, note, the included states have publicly endorsements from state officials regarding a Bitcoin strategic reserve through the state legislation. A full orange dot indicates the completion of a step, while the tephra volcano symbol represents an in-progress step. Additionally, Michigan and Wisconsin already have Bitcoin exposure through the state-run funds, despite lacking a public endorsement for establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve through the state legislation. Data is as of January 29th of this year. So there you have it, yo. I mean, only a matter of time. Bitcoin coming to a state near you. When do you feel personally the strategic Bitcoin reserve will happen for the United States? And right now there's a lot of controversy surrounding that, because initially, and we'll touch upon this real quick before we get into our feature story of the day. Initially, when Trump made the big announcement at the Nashville Bitcoin conference, he specifically said that the United States would become a Bitcoin mining hub of the world. He also said that the U.S. will stockpile the Bitcoin, and I believe even signed an executive order in which they would not sell any Bitcoin. But the executive order more recently said stockpile crypto, and they weren't specific and just stayed in Bitcoin, which leads some to believe they may be also stockpiling altcoins, you know, possibly Solana, Ethereum, XRP, etc. So you let me know. Do you think the United States and Trump will sign the executive order to stockpile and focus on Bitcoin, or do you think it's going to be a collective? And do you think there will be a strategic reserve bill passed by the Senate with Trump signing it into action? And I know that particular bill Cynthia Lummis proposed, which says something like the United States of America will purchase 1 million Bitcoin over the course of 5 years, which would be approximately a purchase of 200,000 Bitcoin per year over the course of the next 5 years. Do you think that will turn into fruition, or do you think it'll never happen? Let me know your honest thoughts, and I'll read that out loud. And do you think that the Bitcoin adoption for the strategic Bitcoin reserve will first happen at the state level, or do you think it'll happen first from the nation state level with the Trumpster? Let me know, and I'll read those comments out loud. Now for our feature story of the day. Microstrategy announces a $563 million stock offering. Says part of the proceeds will be used to acquire more of the biddy. And he also says that each Bitcoin is going to be worth $13 million per coin. So every Bitcoin you avoid buying is a $13 million loss. Let's break this down. So this is in the headlines here today. They're making another major purchase. They're probably buying up Bitcoin on the dip right now as I'm speaking. Another headline here reads, Microstrategy locks in the new funding to fuel the Bitcoin buying spree. Microstrategy doubling down on the biddy, raising $563 million through the preferred stock. Now with 423,650 Bitcoin already, Saylor envisions a 13 million price future. And this is probably a little out of date. I'm pretty confident now. Saylor has over 470,000 of the Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, so, and from an interview he did with Patrick Bet David, he says, every Bitcoin you don't purchase will cost you 13 million. So break this down. Shout out to the Giga Chad, the one and only. Software development firm Microstrategy is announcing a massive new stock offering to raise funds for accumulating more Bitcoin. That's why we call him the Bitcoin Alchemist. In a new press release, the business intelligence company says it's setting the price of its perpetual strike preferred stock offering at $80 per share with the hopes of attaining 563 million. They always underpromise and overdeliver, by the way. You notice that? Which some would go towards acquiring more of Bitcoin. Well, of course, other ways the funds would be issued include the working capital as well as the general corporate expenses. A preferred stock offering is a way for the firm to raise capital without diluting its voting rights. They generally offer investors higher and more consistent yields, as well as more stability. Quoting MicroStrategy, the perpetual strike preferred stock will have a liquidation preference of $100 per share and will accumulate cumulative dividends at a fixed rate of 8% per annum. And hodlers of the preferred stock will have the right to convert their shares of perpetual strike preferred stock on any business day into shares of MicroStrategy's Class A common stock. Hence, Bitcoin Alchemy. Earlier in the month, the shareholders of MicroStrategy, which was founded by the Bitcoin maximalist and former chief executive Mikey Saylor, voted to increase the number of shares in the bid to raise money to purchase more of the King crypto. And at this time, it was reported that the proposal was to increase the number of the common shares from 330 million to 10.3 billion. And just like last week, he announced another $1 billion purchase. And the Saylor tracker we follow, I think it's been 13 consecutive weeks of a massive Bitcoin purchase. I don't think he's slowing down. Remember the proposal he shared a few weeks ago, which we covered on the pod? They committed to purchasing over $43 billion worth of Bitcoin in the next couple of years. Bring it. And so, yeah, from 5 million to $1 billion, the proposal passed with about 56% approval. And did you know BlackRock is the primary shareholder of MicroStrategy? If you don't know, now you know. In fact, BlackRock is the primary shareholder in like over 90% of the companies in the S&P 500. They own everything, practically. And according to the data from the Bitcoin blockchain tracker, Bitcoin Treasuries, MicroStrategy has a stash, I told you, 471,000 Bitcoin worth just over 48 billion. Bitcoin currently correcting though, so it might be a little off right now as we're currently under 100,000, but it's ballpark. You know, Michael Saylor's been crushing it. It completely transformed the trajectory of MicroStrategy, so you already know. And diving a little deeper into the 13 million specific prediction, let's see what I can pull up for the broskies here. I'll read you this. This one is a little older, this article. So this was as of January 26, just FYI, but this is when he initially made the 13 million base case projection. So Saylor has been a vocal proponent of Bitcoin, predicting that by the year 2045, Bitcoin could reach 13 million per coin in a base case scenario. So that's not even the bull scenario. That's a base case. He emphasized Bitcoin's potential to displace gold as a non-governmental store of value, stating that it is the apex property of the human race. That's right. The apex predator has no competitors. That's all I got to say. But let me know your thoughts. 13 million per bitty base case. Holla at your boy. And welcome everyone to the Q&A segment of the live stream as the bitty broskies are going wild today. Because Nippinator's up. He's licking the paw. That might be the next Nippinator indicator. Time will tell.